cover, which is yung everything sa sarili, life, paying the same price.
Ang maipapayo ko rin sa mga first home buyer, no? Hindi sila kukuha ng bahay na hindi nila kayang bayaran.
And what is the implications in case you pay the deposit and bank will say, I will no longer give you the approval final?
Yes, so with Kayanga, the criteria for that particular product is like you have to be in the same job for at least a year.
A house is made of bricks and beams. A home is made of hopes and dreams. And tonight we're here to make that journey from bricks and beams to hopes and dreams just a little bit easier. And I would like to welcome once again, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I feel like it's still afternoon because it's still bright. How are you, Marianne? Haven't heard from you after I've messaged you.
There. Okay. Hello. Hi, guys. Hi, Ate. Thank you. I thought I was actually away last week. This is the very first time, even though I've been in Rotorua, Ate, for how many times? This is the very first time that I really, really, really appreciated Rotorua.
How are you, Didi? Oh, so you went to Rotorua during the long weekend.
Yes, for my birthday. My birthday will always be long weekend, Ate. So I'm so happy.
That's great.
It's always the labor weekend.
That's a good time as well with to spend with the family, right?
Yes.
So and belated happy birthday.
Thank you, Ate. Oh my golly. So now that it is our
53rd.
1 year, 52nd,
53rd na.
53rd. Oh yes. Oh my golly, that was last week.
Yeah, second last week. Ngayon 53rd na. Yeah, and this is going to be another not exciting, but it's very important because other people might just feel like they're excited to buy a home and probably they're excited to move into their home. But are you emotionally prepared? That's another question. You know, during our journey, we had a lot of fights actually with my husband, and I was like, I'm putting a lot of effort looking for the house. And then you don't want to have to look at it because you list down the addresses, the time, the viewing time, and all. And then he was kind of giving up. And then in the end, he felt like, never mind, you choose the house, and then I'll just go with you. And he didn't even want it. So there were a lot of arguments during the process.
It is and what the thing about Ate, what most of our actually my client as well, when I'm still at the in the real estate industry, is that it is it's such an emotional journey. So it's not just mentally and physically tiring to look for the perfect home for you, but it's more emotional. There's a lot of people doesn't know that it's actually more emotions involved, because that's what you've said. See that you have disagreements because you wanted to have something like this, and then he doesn't want it to have something like this, and and that's the reason why ever since from the beginning when we started this podcast, Ate, is that I always believe that you have to have, even just a buyer, you have to have your best team with you. So not just as a vendor, like if you're selling your home, you would need to actually have a very good team with you, even for hunting your home.
Yeah, I do agree 100%. Anyway, going to by the way, welcome everyone to our home buying tips in New Zealand, and tonight's episode is all about managing stress of buying a home. Kung saan man po kayo nanonood right now, especially in New Zealand, let us know if you're watching from Christchurch, Auckland. What's your favorite? Yeah, Topo, galing kami sa Topo before, maybe from Rotorua. So let us know in the comment section. Drop us your comments, your questions, queries, ano pa ba? Your joke. But feel free to engage with us. And if you're interested in home buying, maybe you can share with us a little bit of your journey if you've already bought a home or if you're already in the process. And we would like to hear the pressure that you've been on if you've underwent that as well. Yeah.
So without further ado, do I can we welcome our guest for tonight, Ate?
Yeah.
Um,
Would you like? I've met.
you can welcome our guest for tonight, Ate. Because
Yes, I probably need to welcome her myself because you haven't met her in person. I've met her during one of the meetings that I have attended, a networking meeting among the Filipino business, how do I say it? Entrepreneurs. So yung mga tao lang na nag-gather kami doon, mga Filipino and doon ko
Yes.
siya nakilala. And I thought na, hey, her expertise really matches to our topic because we all know anxiety and stress is everywhere. Although she's going to walk us through her professional background and her career now as, okay, she's going to tell us more. But let's just welcome Regine, not Velasquez, but Francis.
Hi.
Hello, Regine. How are
Nice
you?
meeting you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Julie, for inviting me to be here. It's also very lovely to meet you, Marianne, for the first time virtually.
Meet you for
Right. Oh, give us a little bit more of ideas as to where you're from. How did you get to New Zealand? Were you born here or you grew up here? And what are you doing now?
Yeah, so no, I wasn't born here. I came here in 2013, late 2013, so just over 10 years now. Yeah, 11 this November in 1 month's time. I was a microbiologist, still am. I'm a trained microbiologist, but 3 years ago I decided to change my path, and so I entered entrepreneurship. I started two businesses with my husband, but decided to really follow my passion, which is helping aspiring individuals build mental strength so we have confident and resilient generations. So that's why I founded Saha. And in Saha, our mission is to help people, individuals, train their brains, like just like how we train our bodies in the gym. And so I always say that mental strength is not just with poor mental well-being, but it's for everybody who wants to strengthen and improve their performance and their well-being together. So yeah, I'll probably talk more about that in between when we're having a conversation. But yes, that's what I do now. So if there is anybody here who is curious about what we do, it's just Google mental strength and you'll find out everything about it. It's the combination of confidence, resilience, commitment, and challenge. And so if you think you need to improve on any of those, we can do it for individuals and for teams as well.
Hey, I just would like to take note of it. Confidence, resilience, commitment,
Commitment and
and
challenge.
challenge.
Taking on challenges.
Yeah, cool. Hey, I like this idea of strengthening our mental capacity. Is that it? It's like having a growth mindset. In fact, I've also learned about this growth mindset when I started teaching at school, in my old school. And we have this session about developing a growth mindset. And I think it's similar to what you are doing now. And probably because back in the days, we weren't really taught on how to build developing this strength. But the new generation now, because teachers are trained every now and then, updating about the current research. So we're trying to build this resilience and growth mindset among our students. But the generation back then, not taught yet. So we want to learn more about how to build this resilience, especially in relation to home buying, because it's really stressful. Marianne, do you have something to say?
Are you? I actually want to know because I've never met Miss Regine in here before, right? So
Not yet.
I really am very interested about this, especially being a mom. like having two kids as well, trying to kind of balance how becoming a a more logical mom to becoming too emotional mom, and then a very kind of like so paranoid with everything. And in relation to home buying though, that's what Ate Judy were saying. Miss Regine, are you a homeowner yourself as well
Well, no, but
in
that's
here?
because we choose not to. And I think that's
Oh.
one of the things that we are going to talk about.
Yeah, I would like to know why you're not into it. But sige, ano bang unahin natin? What question would you like to ask first?
You take the lead and I'll just follow through the conversation.
Sige nga. Just share with us why you're not interested in buying a home. Because I myself, I'm a homeowner, and thinking of investing
I'm
in one. Mary Ann is
a real estate in like
yeah.
former real estate agent,
Mm.
but me and my husband are in that planning process now of how we can actually incorporate what we have right now, what we've saved right now, to have our own home as well.
So
And
why are you put off in buying your own home here?
Yeah, good question. I love how we're starting with this question. So I think let's go back to why people buy homes, right? Especially for Asians, and it's true for Filipinos as well. Buying a home is a very emotional thing.
yeah.
So it's a very emotional purchase that it has become part of our pattern. So I say that it's part of that. Okay, we graduate, we find a job, we get married, we have kids, we have a home, etc. And if you don't buy a home at the time when people expect you to buy a home, then you somehow it feels like a failure or something that isolates you from the rest of the crowd, right? And for me and my husband, especially for me, I think it started really early because I'm sure you've read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, or at least you're aware of it. And I read that really early in my days, like maybe in the beginning of high school. And I always had at the back of my head that owning a home is not always an asset. In fact, it's most of the time a liability. And I'm not just to clarify, I'm not saying that buying a home is wrong. It's just that in my own story and in my own circumstances, my priorities and the way that I see myself building wealth is not through real estate or not through properties, or at least not to start from this. And so, knowing what I really want and also what we want as a couple, we know that buying a home is not going to help us get to where we want to be. And so we invest in investments and assets that are easily liquidated, like the stock market and other things that you can easily get the cash back if you need it. Because we both started our own businesses and we are very committed that in the long term, this is what we want to do. And so buying a house right now, regardless of the pressure of a lot of questions from a lot of titas, a lot of titos, that why do you not just buy a home? It's a very low risk investment, especially in the long term. It's just not me. If I am going to buy a home right now, I could see how it's going to get me closer to where I really want to be. And yeah, I think we can talk more about that later on when we talk about stress and buying home. But yes, that's the short answer.
Hey,
It's short enough.
I'm actually really happy to hear other people's perception or perspective about home buying, because I believe it's not for everybody. It
Yes.
depends on your choice and your preference and your interest, especially if you're a traveler. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a
Yeah.
traveler. I'm a stay at home.
I think it's a real kind of, which is, I do understand this is actually very perfect at it, because it doesn't mean that our podcast is about home buying journey and growing yourself in here in New Zealand. Doesn't always mean like what Miss Regine have said, that it's always going to be a home journey. It actually really depends on your goals. As what Miss Regine said, her and her husband's goal is kind of different pathway to what most of our kababayans, and maybe we have some kababayans who are actually is in the same boat as Miss Regine, which is really good. Like it's we're actually getting both sides of, you know,
Yes.
like the whole big picture.
Oh, thank you. Because it's a variety, you know. We always have
Yeah.
na, oh, it's a good investment,
Right.
pagbahay at lupa. But here comes another idea na it doesn't fit my life. Oh, thank you for
Yes.
sharing that, Regine. Yeah. Question, Mariam, would you like to ask the first question? Oh, that was the first question already. Okay.
Well, the second question, Ate, is that as what Miss Regine said earlier, is that, you know, home buying is actually a very emotional process. And how do you deal with like what you've mentioned earlier, Ate, during the time that you and your husband, Kuya, were on the home buying journey, you have those disagreements. And I don't know, maybe you have had some of the tips that Miss Regine are actually gonna talk about soon. But yeah, like I just wanted to know, how do you actually deal with disagreements throughout a process of something as stressful as owning a very big asset?
Mm.
Yeah, disagreements. We love that, no?
Yes.
But what I would say, because in coaching we always try to future pace, and it's always better to try to mitigate before it actually happens. And so what I would say is when you are thinking of buying a house, the number one thing that you have to do is to get clarity. And by clarity, what I mean is number one, why do you want to buy a house? And do you really want to buy a house, or is it something that other people want you to do?
Mm.
Because the moment that you put yourself into something, it's like getting married, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're 30 now, and all the titas are asking, when are you getting married? Nasa na yung boyfriend mo? But I'm not interested in these things,
Yeah.
no. But if I just find anybody and then say, let's get married because my titas are asking me to. So I think, especially for us Filipinos, no, for Filipino listeners, you will hear a lot of questions. Bakit di ka pa bumili ng bahay? Bakit ang tagal? Etc. But you have to clarify, is that really what you want? And
Mm.
then number two, if you really want to buy a house, is identify your negotiables versus non-negotiables. And of course, if you are married or buying with a family, because now, di ba, mas nagiging uso na yung buying with a group of friends or buying
Yes.
with your siblings, you have to all agree what's negotiable. What's the goal of buying a house? Is it for you to live comfortably? Is it for all your kids to live in so they can all live with you? Is it an investment property? Is it something to live in for the next 5 years or for the next 30 years? And so when you know exactly why you are buying a house, you can identify, okay, what's non-negotiable and what's negotiable. Because
Yeah.
then it will set the foundation during the process that, kasi diba, we all have our dream house in our mind, but
Mm.
it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll get the exact house that we have in mind. And sometimes we need to make compromises. Oh, but I like that kitchen. Kaya lang
Mm.
walang, but it's only 3 bedroom. But this one is four
Yeah.
bedroom, but the kitchen is too small. But how do you decide? Is it just the money? But then when you move in, suddenly there will be regrets of so many things.
Yeah.
So I think setting the goals is very important, and having it together, identifying and agreeing what's negotiable and non-negotiable makes the process so much easier. Because the moment that you start viewing and you start bidding houses, there are so many options right now. And I think you both can talk about the journey and the stress of, okay, choosing which one do you really want. And I think when you know what's negotiable and what's not, it becomes so much easier. Because even for us, it's the same. Even if you rent a house, when you want to move somewhere else, there's so many choices. But then you can't just go and view everywhere. You can't just go and bid everywhere. Like you said, just allocating the time is
Yeah.
already so hard. And so eliminating those unnecessary causes of stress already helps your well-being, moving forward.
I
So yeah,
agree with you
once
100%. Yeah. I
yeah,
just
and
kind
once you are, sorry.
I just quickly recall what we've been through when we were buying the home. All of those negotiations, like, oh, I want the bigger yard, and then I want how many bedrooms if you want to, and then what negotiables and non-negotiables that you've mentioned. Yeah, that's why I was laughing.
Yeah, and then when it comes to disagreements, because questioning Marianne is, oh, how do you deal with disagreements? I think if you have the non-negotiables and negotiables, it's easier. But if you don't have, then sit down, step back, and then go back to the goal. Okay, what is this house for? What's important in this? Is it so important we have an empty room so when our relatives come from overseas and visit, we have a room for them? Is it important that we have a fully fenced big backyard because we are planning to have young kids in the near future? And so step back and then work on the goal together and then see the options. Okay, which ticks the boxes, which doesn't, and it will resolve the disagreement for you.
I was just having a second thought, which one is easier, buying a home by yourself or buying a home with a, a partner or with friends? Sometimes they are saying that more heads are better than one, but sometimes I feel like if I'm the only one making decisions, then it might be riskier because I might miss some factors. Do you get what I mean? Ano kaya sa tingin mo? You've been probably studying about this.
Yeah, more brains is always better than one brain, 100%, because you get a lot of perspectives. The only danger in that, like you said, well, it's like leadership. No, sometimes dictatorship is good in some scenarios. Sometimes democracy is better. But democracy has more inputs, but it's slower. Dictatorship has less input, but it's faster. And so
Yeah.
when you have the ability to manage your energy, manage your time, but you don't want to miss, like you mentioned, I just don't really want to miss any blind spots. It's very important to know that there are a lot of people that can give inputs to you. So you can always ask for feedback, ask for their experiences, ask for their opinion. People love giving opinions. And it doesn't mean that you have to take everything. Know that every opinion, every advice would come from a different life experience, a different perspective. And when it comes to loved ones, sometimes we think that, oh, I'm too pressured because, it's my mom and she's important to me, or it's my whoever it is. But I think having the skill to listen without the pressure of implementing every single thing is a skill. And so once you're clear with what you really want, that's why I always go back. What is the why behind this house? Once you know that, even though somebody will say that, oh, but that's too expensive, it's too high maintenance, you have a very big loan, why don't you just get a townhouse? Or maybe someone will say, just get a townhouse. Why do you need to get a very big house? This is more affordable, it's the same thing, etc. You ask for their input and then you take what is valuable to you, because there is always something to learn from everyone, and I truly believe that. So sometimes someone will just say from a 1 hour conversation just one thing, but that one thing can change the way you decide how to buy your house. So yes, more brains definitely better than one, but yeah, you have to be clear what's valuable for you and what's not.
I always have this fight with my husband, because I always ask for his opinion. But then I believe that at the end of the day, because he would always say, I'm so stubborn. And why am I asking him for his opinion when I don't actually listen to him? So he gets annoyed. How should I deal with that? But recently, I just try to ignore that actually. But with those couples or friends, maybe who are buying the same home, buying one home, and then it's hard. How are we going to manage this kind of situation when the one that you're asking for opinion is insisting that you have to listen to them because we asked for their opinion?
Well, if you're asking for the opinion of somebody who's not going to live in this house, we're not going to invest in it at all, there shouldn't be any question on whether you should or should not implement it. Like if Marianne is buying a house right now, I can just say that, oh, Marianne, do you know that the house in Pocono is much better than the house in Christchurch? So my opinion should not weigh anything, Marianne, because what do I have to do with it? Like, but if you are asking for an opinion or an advice from a friend or a partner who is also investing in that house or who is going to live in that house with you for a long time, then again, I would go back to how does it help us achieve what we want to have in this house? Do we want a comfortable house? Do we want a generous space? Do we want a room with so much privacy that I want an ensuite and 2 walk-in wardrobes inside it, and that's the entire floor of the 3rd floor? So, because if we say no or we disagree with a particular opinion, there has to have a reason behind it. Okay, but why don't you want this house? You have to have a reason. You have to go back to something like, if you have a list of what you really need or what you really want, that this is why. And there is no other. But if it's just superficial things like, okay, what color of paint do you want? What bench top do you want? Well, I would say whoever is more impacted by that should make the decision. That is just my suggestion. It wouldn't always work. But for example, if I'm cooking more than my husband, I should choose which bench top.
Thanks for sharing that. I like that.
I have a question, Miss Regine. So would you agree that it is actually better, it's actually better compromising when you are dealing with a friend or a colleague or a business partner, say, than your emotional kind of relationship, say a husband and wife? Because I while you were explaining your, like what you were trying to tell us as well and share with us, I was just thinking about how back in real estate, when I was still a real estate, I have a lot of buyers who are actually more, they are more of friends or colleagues who are buying together more than a couple. And the thing is, the friends who buy together have got more quicker decision making, what they know what they want to buy, than I am dealing with a husband and wife that we actually viewed more than 100 house together. you know unlike the friends that I actually tried to sell a house with, like we just ended up like, okay, second or third house done, put an offer. So would you agree that having a personal, more deeper relationship is actually harder to have that kind of agreement than a normal kind of like a colleague kind of relationship?
Well, before I answer that question, I'm interested to know what is the purpose of friends or colleagues buying a house together.
They are actually buying it as an investment together. So what they do, most of the colleagues that I've actually sold to, they're buying it as an investment. They live in it. So some will live in it, and they'll just find some housemates so that it helps them with the mortgage repayment. And then, of course, as we know, if it's a couple, unless if they're an investor couple, but if it's someone who will live in that house, it's harder for them to actually, which is what it kind of answers, that kind of what you've said earlier. It's, you're living in it, then you have more, you become more choosy because you're the one living in it. But the colleagues, they will live in it, but it's more of an investment in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I to answer your original question, I think it doesn't buying a house as a couple to find a home to live in with your family is like getting married. It's like making, a decision in the next few months for something that you're going to stay in for the next 10 to 30 years or even more than that.
Yes.
And so that commitment is what brings more tension to the decision making as compared to to a group of people or another couple who are buying a house just for investment, because that house to them, they are looking for the return. It's just all about the money. So it doesn't matter if it looks good or not. It doesn't matter if it's well maintained or not. It's 1950s or 1920s. As long as it's going to be rented out easily, I'm going to get my money back. I'm not going to live there for the next 30 years. I'm going to sell it one day, probably. It doesn't matter. And so the risk attached to each scenario
Yeah.
is very different.
So it's actually, so you agree that it is actually harder. Like the disagreement always arises when the relationship is far more deeper, and also the purpose of buying, eh?
Yeah, I think the purpose of buying is the main reason, because I have met many couples who are in property investment, and I did not see a lot of
Tension.
complication in terms of managing, yeah, in terms of managing their properties. Because at the end of the day, investors look at properties as assets, not as, as a part of my identity. As compared to if you own that house, you'll always think that, oh, when I have guests, I want to show them my new deck that I built or my beautiful garden. If it's just an investment house, it's natural to not think about it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I don't have a landscape garden or
Yeah.
a beautiful kitchen. As long as it's functioning, if it's approved by the home healthy standards, then it works. So you
I
can
like
choose.
our discussion. I like our discussion right now because it makes me understand why people make this decision and why the others, how you react to the decision of one another. And if I'm going to ask you the next question, about this decision paralysis. This is the first time I've heard of this word actually. Uh, some couples, I know one couple, a close friend of mine, who decided to buy a house and then later on they kind of froze because of many other factors. And how can they stay decisive and trust themselves that they have to move on or pursue that decision that they have initially started? Uh, or this may not just apply to home buying, it's also in other aspects like moving on to another career, transitioning to another career. No, it's not meant to be our focus though. But sige, balik na lang tayo sa focus natin na home buying. Nag-start ka na ng process, may pre-approval na, and then all of a sudden because of your disagreements with your spouse, you kind of, oh, let's put it aside for now and let's not make decision quickly. What is your best advice for them?
Well, every couple or every scenario will have a different reason for stepping back. So I don't believe there is a one size fits all advice for that. But based on the scenario that you just mentioned, there's already a pre-approval. They're all ready to go. Suddenly they have a disagreement and they step back. And what I see in that scenario is that there is something more important to their relationship than the house, or at least than that house in that moment. And so we tend to not catch, a lot of the reasons behind the purchase, like how we say that it's an emotional purchase. Sometimes it's just a part of a pattern that we don't realize. Why are we buying a house right now? Are we really ready? Or is it just because, oh, we already have kids and this is what we're supposed to do next? We don't know what to do if we don't buy a house. And so the moment that we are almost there, it's the same thing with some engagements. And when the wedding day is almost there, suddenly one person will back out or they'll start just, putting it off. Because the closer the decision is, the pressure increases. And that is when, what you've been keeping inside and bottling up starts to explode. That you have not been listening to me, or this has always been your dream but not mine, or I've always wanted to use this money for something else but you never listened to what I wanted to do, etc. And so for the situations that arises like this, because I can't give one single advice, I think what I would say is to future pace yourself. Where do you want to be as a couple? Where do you want to be 10 years from now, for example, or even further if you want to think as far as 30, 50 years? Where do you want to be? And buying this house right now and imagining yourself 10 years from now, would you regret? Are you likely to regret buying this house right now? Or are you likely to be proud of it? And I think you'll realize, a lot of people will realize, if it's not really for them at that moment in time, it's, it's going to be easier to step back and not buy a house, because you realize that you can always buy another house whenever you're ready. It's not something that, oh, I missed out on that house,
Yeah.
now I can't buy a better one. It's never going to happen. Maybe you'll think that, oh, the houses during those days were only $40,000 and now it's $400. But then also, your circumstances will change in that amount of time. The interest rates will have changed, the rules would have changed. But making sure that you do the right thing at the right time and making sure you'll be proud of it, in your future self will be proud of it instead of regretting it, I think that can make or break the decision making.
But you know how you say buying a home involves a lot of risk, and there's actually no 100% assurance that it's going to work well. There are many factors that will affect but during the journey, and even when you are already living in your house. How can you make sure that you're making the right decision, even if it's still unknown at this time? Like, I don't know how to answer it properly. Like, maybe let's just say it this way. How can you remain calm when things are feeling like it's not going right? What are your tips probably on the person, on the people, couple especially, because a lot of home buyers are couples. uh, what are the tips that you can give them, maybe in general, to help them calm when they feel like, oh, I feel like it's a wrong decision to make, or feel like we should, when they are in the midst of disagreements or arguments between buying a house now or later? Yeah. Oh, you're off.
Yeah.
It's the same thing Miss Regine asked. I think I'm trying to get I'm actually kind of getting what Miss Ate Juvie is saying. I have had a lot of buyers that had a buyer's regret. That what they did. So not before buying at the Juvie, but
After.
after they bought. Yeah, so they have that the buyer's regret.
Yeah.
So we called it the buyer's regret. They will contact us, and they become my friends, and they will become like, oh, Marianne, like, do you think this is a good buy? Did we do the right thing? Did we buy
Yeah.
the right thing?
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I can't really help them as much because it has settled. They've already moved in the house. So at the end of the day, like, what it's the same thing as how they feel with what Ate Juvie was saying. What will you advise to those kind of people who has kind of those kind of regrets, like, or trying to kind of
Anxiety.
like, yeah, so it's anxiety, right?
Yeah, okay. I'll answer at the Juby first. So in terms of uh, when you feel that things are not going right, I'm not say not going right is more of like, oh, it's a gut feeling, like something is not right, but you can't really pinpoint what is that thing. I always say that follow
Gut.
your gut feeling. It doesn't mean that do what your gut feeling says. It's just follow it, meaning understand what is that thing that is not going right. Because sometimes we feel that, oh, I'm really excited to buy a house now, but I feel like I'm settling to this house because it's within my budget, but I don't really like it. Sometimes, oh, I'm settling for this because the location is too far, but it's the size of house that I want, but it's far from my work. So there will always be something that is not working. But most of the time, our our conscious mind don't want to admit it because we are so focused on, I want to buy a house.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
reason I like follow your gut feeling, our subconscious mind is constantly absorbing information, and it recognizes patterns. And so even if we don't recognize it consciously, our brain does. And so that's why I say, if you feel like something is not right, follow it, explore it with your partner, talk about it. What are you not liking about, pros and cons? What are the pros and cons? And then identify what are your priorities. So with your priorities, is it the children, is it the school, is it the drive to work, etc.? Then you just weigh it out. Is it, which one is worth this much or not? And is it really, is it really, how important is it for me to make this decision right now? Or can I push it out a little bit further? And then a follow-up question to that, if I don't buy this house right now, if I buy this house right now and I imagine myself living in it, I like visualization. So if you are not sure about the house, imagine yourself in that house doing your particular routine. What do you do in your current house in the morning? You love, like I love watching the view outside our window. We have a very beautiful view. So once we were viewing a house to move into, and it's such a beautiful house, but there is no view at all. So we almost sure that we wanted to move there, but then I realized I actually can't enjoy my mornings there because I don't have a view. And so imagine your routine there, imagine your kids, imagine your partner, imagine cooking in the kitchen. Is it worthwhile paying for that house right now? Or would you regret, cooking in the kitchen that you settled for because you wait another 10 months, for example? Or is it worth waiting another 10 months just so you know that you won't regret settling for anything that's not aligned with what you really want to achieve? Because this commitment is almost a lifelong commitment, if this is, if that's the purpose of buying a house. So always have your eye on the price and trust the process. Nothing, you won't miss out on anything. You won't miss out on anything if you decide not to buy now because you are not sure. Of course, if you're sure, don't delay. But if something is not quite right, there is no rush.
So true. If you think you are eligible to buy a house, you are ready to buy a house, you have the money, that's very important, then go for it. But if you don't have it, don't force, like you're going to borrow from families and many friends just to make it there. I don't think that's a good decision. That's what they call FOMO. I've read it from the many articles about home buying here, the fear of missing out. So if you think you're good, go for it. And if you think you're not, that's why I don't buy my second home yet, because we are not yet capable.
Yeah. And then for Marianne's question, which is on the buyer's remorse, it's like the post-purchase dread. And after viewing so many houses, and probably these couples who experience the buyer's remorse, I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, but you can tell me, Marianne, these are most likely the couples who have viewed so many houses. Yeah, and so what happens is that, they were in this race that they forgot that during the process, they forgot what the final, what the prize is, what's the reward, why am I in this house buying journey for? And then they became so obsessed with, preparing the paperwork, applying for the finances, applying for the mortgage, finding this, finding that, finding the furniture to fill up the house, that they've already forgotten why they started the home buying process. And what I would say to the buyers who are experiencing buyer's remorse is to just remind them that out of 100 houses that you viewed, for example, at that moment in time when you decided to buy this house, what was it that made you decide that this house was right for you? Because a lot of the times for the moment we have something, we forget what we value in it. And it's totally normal. It's not like they're being ungrateful or anything. It's like, how do we explain? It's overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, your brain is constantly rushing. And then suddenly, when there is no pressure, you take it off and suddenly your brain is resting. It starts asking questions because something must be wrong. Why is it not, the brain is feeling like it's unusual, something must be wrong. So we start asking ourselves questions. And so I think if you ask them another question, ask a question back at them, that go back to the time when you decided, that exact moment you decided you wanted this house, what was it that made you buy it? And the moment they go back to that moment where their emotions were really high, that yes, I am so excited to have this home, it will help release whatever remorse or regret they have.
It's quite
Yeah,
similar
that's true.
to your first love, or what do you call this, when you marry your husband or your spouse, you know, in the long run it feels like you run out of love, and then you are reminded to recall the first time why you chose your spouse, to- why you chose that person to be your spouse, what were the good things about it, because over time we kind of get used to their characteristics, and we tend to be unappreciative already of those characteristics because it's always there, and we try to kind of look for something that's not there, and that's why we seemed like ungrateful, and yeah, so
Yeah,
recall if
just
you
bring
can.
on the other side, no. But I think another thing, Marianne, you can ask them is, remember the time when you haven't bought your own house, and compare how you feel right now, or how your lifestyle is right now, waking up in your own house knowing it's yours, as compared to 1 month ago when you're living in a house where you probably had this or that, but it wasn't yours. And because it's an emotional purchase for most of the people, I think the power of those emotions, that yes, I've succeeded. This is my, it's part of my pride. I've done it. I've bought a house. It will help increase the gratitude within
Mhm,
them. Because
mhm.
what happens is, okay, I now got my own house, but then I'll see another friend. They also bought a new house, but it's a better house than mine. And so they start comparing with
Yeah.
other people, instead of comparing against their past selves where they were before. And then suddenly they forget that, oh, I am actually in a much better place than where I was last month, just
Mhm.
because someone else is in a better house. So
Yeah, that's so true, eh?
It is. I told you, Ate, that's so emotional. This journey is actually quite emotional. And like, and again, in the beginning, we have to have our own team. And now Miss
Mm,
Regine should always should also be there. So aside from
yeah,
your agents, your lawyers, and everything, someone
yeah.
has to remind them, to be grateful of what they have and what
Hey,
they've, accomplished.
what are the services that you offer, Regine? Do you offer this to anyone who would like to, parang psychologist or just a guidance counselor? Do you serve like a guidance counselor for married couple probably who are having trouble or problems about their first home buying journey, or maybe couples having problems with their marriage life? Can you tell us more about the services or the business that you are having?
yes, so I focus more on coaching and training. So the main difference with counseling or therapy with coaching is that when you go to counseling or therapy, you go there to manage your symptoms or manage your problems. And so when you go there, you focus on your problem, you focus on the past, and you try to manage that or heal whatever symptoms you have. The difference with coaching is you come to me, and then you have a goal in mind that you want to achieve, whether that's buying a house or anything else. Maybe you just want to be better, or want to be mentally stronger, more confident, more resilient, etc. And then we focus on that goal, and along the process, usually, the symptoms and whatever is happening with you right now would just disappear, because the foundation of our coaching in Saha is neuroscience and behavioral science. And so everything that we do is rewiring your brain, so that your brain naturally, how do I say, naturally chooses chooses the ways that will lead you towards
Your goal.
your specific goal, instead of ruminating on your current situation or your past. So that's the main difference. Who do I do this with? I do it with any individuals who want to be mentally stronger, who want to be better. If you want to boost your performance and your well-being at the same time, that is ultimately how we maximize your potential, because either way you either burn out or you don't achieve what you really want in life, right? So I do it with individuals through one-on-one coaching. I also do it with teams or groups of people in organizations. And yeah, it's basically for anybody who wants to achieve a particular goal, whatever it may be, and wants to reduce, want to reduce the overwhelm, want to reduce the stress, want to reduce the symptoms of depressions and low mood, anxiety, improve their relationships, boost their confidence, improve their long-term commitment, and have a better, stronger attitude in facing challenges. That's what we do in Saha.
Naghalo-halo ng mga questions ko because you've mentioned so many things. Actually, I don't know which one to ask now, but it sounds like you were there before the symptoms or the problem exists. So once the problem is already there, are you saying that you're not the right person to approach? It should be the therapist or psychologist. Is that it?
Well, what we do is, you can think about mental strength versus physical strength. And so for physical strength, you have your gym trainers. For physical health, you have your GPs, for example. So for mental health, you have your psychologists and counselors. For mental strength, you have your mental strength coaches like me. So it doesn't mean that if you have diabetes that you don't need to go to gym and you don't need a gym trainer or a gym coach. Because getting your physical strength will still benefit your physical health, but you do not go to the gym to cure your diabetes. So it's the same with mental strength. So you can have, I have a lot of clients with severe anxiety and depression, but yeah, and so some of them absolutely also, I recommend that they see a medical professional if I know that they need to. I give them a mental well-being assessment anyway, and if they want to go, they will go. But the purpose of coming to me is for them to build their mental muscles and not to be healed. It's just that in the process, when you become stronger, it becomes easier to recover, just like in physical health.
Okay, I get it. So your services still cover if they want to approach you, say for example, to strengthen their mind, probably their thinking, even if they are undergoing some stress already. So it's not just
Yes,
before the stress,
absolutely.
even during the stress that they need more help. You'll be willing to be with them. So what can you say about this manifesting? Does it really work when you kind of, I want to think about buying my first home? What are the strategies in order to achieve that? Do you have any?
Yes. So when we say manifesting, the thing with the word manifesting, quote unquote manifesting, is there are a lot of hype on social media that it almost lost what it really means. Like manifesting is not, visualizing that I want a big mansion with a red door, and you keep meditating on it every day, and then suddenly you'll realize that, oh, that's mine. It doesn't work like that. So manifesting is basically, how I teach my clients is that understanding that the law of manifestation, and this is probably far from home buying, but just for context, the law of manifestation sits on top of another law, which is the law of commitment. And that is what we really base the entire mental strength concept on, because what you commit to is what you will achieve. That's what, when they say that what you focus on grows, it's neuroscience. So when we say that know what you want and visualize it, it's similar to, it's not just imagining it or putting it on a vision board, because a lot of the time, and I can't remember the exact percentage now, but majority of people who make vision boards, their vision boards actually causes them more anxiety and depression than achieving the goal. And it's just, it's a fact, because they are taught to put it on the wall and then look at it every day, sit down and do nothing. But if you're really committed to get a 4-bedroom house with a swimming pool in Remuera, for example, then you will have clarity. You start with clarity. Do you really want it, or you're just being, I want to say that I want that, I'm in Remuera in a 4-bedroom house with a swimming pool, or is it really something that you want? And then you focus on focus on the actions that you need to do to get that. You don't just focus on the house, because you can focus on the house and the house will be there, but that is not in your control. At the end of the day, other people can bid on it. Other people can, the sellers can increase their price unnecessarily. Suddenly, calamity can happen and the house might change. It's not in your control. What's in your control is taking action. And so when you really know what house you want to buy, you focus on the actions you need to take to be able to buy that house, because that's what's in your control. So the moment that you focus on what you can do, you'll realize that it's so much easier to take action, because you know exactly where it's going to lead you. Now, I'm not saying that 100% of the time it will lead you to that 4-bedroom house in Remuera with a swimming pool, but you will realize that at the end of it, it's always going to be the lifestyle that you want to live, that you wanted to live in the house that you wanted to buy, because of the actions that you take. So it's like setting a goal and then trickling down the steps. Okay, what do I need to do to get there? And you start there and go back, so you know the steps to go through, and then trust the process. I think a lot of overwhelm only happens because of two things. Number one is trying to control what you can't control, which is maybe part of it is the emotions of your husband, or the real estate agent that you don't like, or the rules of the government, or the interest rates. So stop trying to control those things and focus on what you can do. Number two cause of overwhelm and stress is not taking action when you should be taking action. And so I always tell my clients who have severe anxiety or are always overwhelmed, overthinking, if you're overwhelmed, you ask yourself only two questions. Is there something you can do about it? If the answer is yes, you do something about it immediately, regardless how small you can do in the next 5 minutes. If the answer is no, I cannot do anything about it, you just breathe and let it go. And then you just focus again on the next step. What can you do? And yeah, I think for manifestation, that's the process of it. Give clarity, take action, trust the process. Especially for Filipinos, we are very faithful people. Most of us are. Most of us believe in God. We believe that God has the best timing, the perfect timing, the best plans for us. So, acknowledging that, take time. Once you know that you've done the actions that you need to take, that you've done whatever, that you've asked for the help that you needed to ask, you've contacted the people that you needed to contact, leave it to God. You just trust the process. And that's how it is. Regardless of, kahit mag-contemplate ka overnight for the next 7 nights, if interest rates will go down in the next 5 months, it's not going to change anything. So,
thank you for breaking down that word manifesting. It's so specific. So listeners are listening and they will take action, because action without, I don't know, manifesting without action, doesn't work, doesn't happen.
Was just
no.
like I was listening to Miss Regine, and I was like, it's the same thing as those people who manifest to have the perfect sexy body and eating chips while looking at the photo,
Yeah. Yeah, see? Yeah,
It doesn't work like
that's
that. All right.
No
I
commitment.
am so amazed with our discussion right now, with all of these, because mental stress, mental strength is actually very helpful in every aspect of our lives. It's not just home buying. So while you were talking about mental strength, I was thinking of career, of love life, your marriage life, of your relationship with your kids, your families, your friends. And home buying is just the next step, actually. Relationship still matters most compared to others.
Mm.
Yes, Marianne? Add on to that.
That's Yes, that's so true. And I think that's what also this kind of topic is what ate parents like us, especially with younger kids like me, I always try to find ways of how to actually strengthen the mental, the mental health of my kids, especially my 7-year-old girl. It's very challenging. But, at the end of the day, I think learning how to do it as well will actually become more beneficial, especially if you're trying to hone and mold that child's mind as well. Because I think nowadays it's just so hard, because it's so hard to kind of help with your kids, because there's just so many factors, so many voices, and it's not just the family, and it affects everyone, especially the young minds. So I think for a parent like us, it would be very helpful for us to learn the ways that you can actually help out with Miss Regine. I was just looking at your LinkedIn profile, and then I see that you actually have those posts as well, with the stress, managing your stress as well, which is very, very good.
Hey, Regine,
Yeah, let's connect on.
how can the our viewers or audience who will be able to who happen to watch this session of ours reach out to you? Do you have a business number that I can put up on the screen?
Yes, business number, you can always contact my mobile at 022
22
860.
860. Let me just show that up. See, Regine
This,
Francisco 2206 70860. Is that right?
yes, yes. I'm most of the time on calls, as you can imagine, because I'm coaching. So they can also email me. That's just Regine at Saha, SAHAH.co.nz. So it's just my name, Regine at Saha.co.nz.
What's the name of your business? How can they look it up? Do you have a website or yeah, just the name of the business maybe? Saha?
It's Saha.co.nz.
Saha.co.nz. We'll put it up now so that they'll be able to look you up online. Online maybe. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
I am
saha.co.nz.
most accessible on LinkedIn. That's why I'm so easy to find in there.
But you also have Facebook page, right? That's Saha.
Yes, yes.
Oh, good. Thanks so much. Do you have any last words to our viewers? Because I find this very interesting and very helpful. Sorry, because we'd normally ask for, how does it work? Do they book for an appointment? Is there like initial free appointment for a few minutes, or they just have to pay up front? How does it work?
Well, if it's going to be for a one-on-one coaching, I definitely do not ask upfront immediately. So I usually give 1 to 2 hours free coaching conversation just to understand if what they need, if I can actually add value to them, or if I am
Yeah.
actually the right match for them. So yes, 100%. A lot of people, of course, already find value in that just 1 to 2 hours. And then if they feel that it's going to be valuable for them, then we discuss about the arrangements and the fees.
Oh, that's cool. 1 to 2 hours. That's really a lot of your time, and that's free. Oh, geez. Oh, thank you. We are now going to include you in our team of, for those who are planning to buy their homes, you need to look for a real estate agent, a broker, a mortgage broker, a lawyer, what else? Coach, a coach as well, mental coach. And what else, Marianne? Nakalimutan ko ba? Oh, you are muted, Marianne.
Okay, well, with the A team, our A team ate is that the mortgage broker, financial advisor, accountant, and
Accountant. Wala
then
tayong
yes,
accountant.
accountant, real estate agent, which is I left, so I can direct you to the
Back
proper
to-
person if you're looking to buying or selling your home, and of course now it's a mental strength coach.
Yeah. Yeah, well done. Thanks so much, Regine, for your time. And I look forward to meeting you again during that networking. Marianne, if you're interested, come and join. And
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Juby, and lovely meeting you, Marianne. I had fun
Lovely
with that
meeting you.
conversation.
no worries. Thank you. We learned a lot. I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Right. Oh, there you go. Anong nangyari sa screen natin? Bay natin. Oh, ang laki naman.
They're
Oh,
actually no, that's very helpful, ate, because yeah, I've got even with the industry right now that I'm working with, there's a lot of people who actually, experiencing this, the dragging kind of feeling and anxiety and burnt out, and it's not just in home buying, ate. I think every industry will have that kind of.
that's true. And ano masabi ko, when it comes to home buying, there are also cases that relationships get broken just because of that big decision that you make. How are you going to overcome that stress and anxiety of what's next because your relationship is now at risk because of the big decision that you made? So it's important that you know somebody that you can tap to help you. So it's good that I've met Regine. So I'm going to attend more networking events in the future. There's one coming
Is
up
that
again.
Miss Ate Juvie, is that the meetup where you also brought me before? I've had
It's different. This is
um
different because this is
oh,
sponsored or organized by a Filipino group of entrepreneurs, businessmen or businesswomen here in New Zealand. So we're mostly Filipinos, so we can relate with the talk that we're having and the struggles that we're experiencing. Yeah, the only thing that I'm having a second thought of joining is because of my tutorial. So I'm just thankful that my tutorial supposedly after this has been moved to Saturday, so we're able to extend the time. Sunod-sunod ang
oh,
event sa every afternoon.
that's why you're so busy, Ate. You're in demand.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, in demand. So there you go,
Okay,
guys.
your final announcement, Ate. Your next podcast is on Thursday or Friday?
Yeah,
You
my
have
next
another one.
podcast. So yeah, my next podcast is with a teacher. I haven't posted it yet, but it's gonna be Sunday. I'll confirm it on my post because it's just yeah, sunod-sunod nga. Ikaw, Marian, anong announcement mo?
I actually, well, at the end of the day, like me, I'm not in real estate at the moment, but of course, if there are any, I still answer texts and calls for my previous buyers, ate, especially the kababayans, because and I like it kasi at the end of the day, most of our kababayans are very very anxious, yun nga, anxiety, so anxious na I just actually answered one of our kababayans who who bought a house on the hot market for 1.4, and then he might be thinking of moving kasi there is a good opportunity for work in a different place. And I know that selling it would be a good choice, but I think that when he asked me about the probable loss if he sells it at this market, that's
At
when
this
he realized, okay, I'm so thankful now I've talked to you, because I was about to kind of sell it and then accept the losses and everything, or I thinking that I might get the same money I paid for. I said, nah, I don't
Mm,
think that you're gonna get the same money.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So you're
So
still open for advices if they want to reach out. So that's good. That's good.
yes.
Right. Thank
Thank
you so much, everyone. Abangan nyo rin po yung upcoming Christmas party for Filipino teachers on December 1. That's Sunday from 10 a.m. Join us from 10 a.m. And then just call in sick the following day if you feel like you make a joke. We still have class the following day, so don't do that anyway. That's just a joke. And of course, coming events in the Philippines. We will be in Davao, Bicol, and Cebu as well. It's not going to be me, but another teacher who will be going to Cebu. In case anyone would like to reach out to, who've been to New Zealand, who is already teaching here in New Zealand. Iba kasi pag nakausap mo na yung Pinoy, then may experience na talaga kaysa naman
Yes.
you parang ma-inspire ka because you meet each other in person. So abangan niyo po 'yan.
Yes.
Thank you. And next week, abangan niyo rin po ang next episode namin. Bye
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. Have a good
Good night.
evening. Good night po.
And